Today we're going back in time to ancient Egypt to uncover, well, the captivating story, I guess you could say, of King Tutankhamun's tomb.
And we're going way beyond just the gold mask.
Yeah.
A lot more to uncover than you might expect.
Ooh, for sure. We're talking like young king, a forgotten tomb, and yeah, enough gold to make a pharaoh blush.
This wasn't just a treasure trove, it was a time capsule. And it really revolutionized, I think, how we understand ancient Egypt.
Totally. But before we get lost in all the wonders of Tut's burial chamber, let's I don't know, set the stage a bit. What do you think?
Yeah. To appreciate this discovery, you kind of have to transport yourself to the Valley of the Kings.
Okay.
It's this really arid landscape that the pharaohs chose as their final resting place.
It must have been something else, this desolate valley, surrounded by these towering cliffs. Why go through the trouble of burying your pharaoh in such a, I don't know, harsh environment?
Well, the Egyptians believed that the journey to the afterlife was, well, it was really dangerous.
Oh, okay.
These hidden tombs, carved deep into the rock, they were meant to protect the pharaoh's remains and, of course, all the treasures that came with them.
Right, to protect from the elements, but also, grave robbers, right?
Exactly.
Which, sadly, not all tombs were, successful at deterring those grave robbers, I'm guessing.
No, you're right. Many were looted over the centuries, leaving archaeologists with, well, fragments, trying to piece together the past.
Right, just puzzle pieces.
And that is what makes Tutankhamun's tomb so extraordinary.
Yeah, because his was untouched.
Virtually untouched, sealed for millennia, like opening a time capsule.
Wow.
Offering this, well, unprecedented glimpse into the burial rituals and beliefs of one of, honestly, history's most fascinating civilizations.
Okay, now I get why historians were practically doing cartwheels when this tomb was discovered.
It was a monumental find. Even more so because of the man who, well, he dedicated years of his life searching for it, Howard Carter.
Now, Carter wasn't your typical archaeologist, right? Content to just, spend his days in some dusty library.
That's right.
This guy was an artist.
Carter, he began his career in Egypt as a teenager, actually, sketching artifacts and tomb paintings. This artistic eye, his sense of detail, invaluable when he transitioned from, let's say, recording the past to actually excavating it.
So, a love for ancient Egypt and this knack for spotting details that other people might miss sounds like the perfect recipe for an explorer.
Yeah. But it was Carter's, it was his determination, his refusal to give up, really, that led him to Tutankhamun.
After how long?
Years. Spent combing the Valley of the Kings.
Oh my gosh.
Battling scorching heat, facing dead end after dead end, funding drying up faster than the Nile in a drought, probably.
I mean, most people would have packed it in after the first year, right? Declared it a lost cause.
But Carter, he had this unshakable belief, this intuition, that he was close. Tutankhamun's tomb, it was out there, waiting to be found.
And boy, was he right. 1922, the year it all changed. So, paint the scene for us, will you?
All right. Picture this, November 4th, 1922. Carter's team, they're clearing rubble, near the entrance of another tomb, actually. And that's when they uncover these steps, leading down into the earth.
Okay, stop right there. I'd be freaking out. Were they expecting to find anything, or was this like a total shock?
Well, they had been finding, hints, fragments of pottery with Tutankhamun's name, a cache of tools seemingly abandoned in a hurry.
Ooh, interesting.
But nothing prepared them for what they found next.
This is where it gets good. Right. So what do they find at the bottom of those steps?
A sealed doorway.
Oh, no way.
And on that doorway, a cartouche, a royal seal bearing the name of, that's right, Tutankhamun.
Chills, literally chills. I mean, imagine the weight of that moment, knowing that they were the first souls to lay eyes on that seal in over 3,000 years.
It's a feeling, I think, that's pretty hard to put into words. The realization that you're on the verge of something extraordinary, something that will honestly change history. And on November 26th, 1922, Carter, along with Lord Carnarvon, his patron, and a select few others, took a deep breath and stepped through that doorway.
And into the legendary tomb of King Tut. So they're standing on the other side of this doorway, right? After all this time, what did they see?
They saw treasures, that's for sure.
Okay, but what does that even mean?
I mean, it was practically overflowing. Gold, furniture, chariots, Everything a young pharaoh might need for, well, the afterlife.
You're kidding. Frozen in time for 3,000 years.
It's hard to even imagine, honestly, what that moment must have felt like.
Hard to imagine. Let's talk about those treasures, though, because I think when people hear King Tut, they think of one thing, and it's that golden mask, right?
It's iconic.
It really is. Can you describe it, though? Like, what makes it so special?
Well, imagine a life-sized portrait mask hammered from solid gold and with these inlaid eyes, quartz and obsidian, that seem to, they follow your every move.
It's giving serious side-eye from beyond the grave.
The craftsmanship is unbelievable.
Yeah.
Just a real testament to those ancient Egyptian artisans.
But it's more than just a pretty face, right? What was the whole point of the mask? Like, why?
It was vital for the afterlife. They believed it would help the spirit recognize its own body, when the time came.
So the Egyptians are very practical.
You could say that.
A name tag for eternity?
Right?
I like it. What about the other stuff in there? Anything stand out to you?
Oh, man. Where to begin? There were chariots, because, of course, you need those to navigate the underworld, right?
Naturally.
Furniture, finely crafted furniture, canopic jars.
Okay, hold up. Canopic jars, those sound a little creepy. What were those for?
So those were for the pharaoh's organs.
Excuse me.
Yeah, they removed them during mummification, and each jar was for a different organ.
Okay, so like Tupperware, but for your insides?
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah,
But they were beautiful, too, each one carved with the head of a protective deity.
of course, because even your organs need a fashion sense in the afterlife, I guess.
Right. They really thought of everything.
It's amazing. Did they find, like, everyday objects, too? Or just all this, afterlife gear?
Oh, yeah. They found all sorts of things. Board games, clothes, even snacks. Like they were packing for a really long trip.
Which I guess they were. Of all of it, though, what really blew you away? If you had to pick one.
For me, it's the throne.
Okay.
This wasn't just a chair. This was art. Cedar wood, overlaid with gold and silver, and these intricate scenes of Tutankhamun and Anci.
His queen.
Yeah, his queen. It reminds you that this is a young guy, barely out of boyhood, ruling alongside his queen.
So it's like a love story and a power struggle all in one throne.
Right. And the throne, it tells us a lot about their religious beliefs.
Oh, how so?
We'll look at how Tutankhamun and Anci are depicted. They're bathed in the rays of Aten, the sun god.
Ah, right. Wasn't that Akhenaten's whole deal?
Exactly. Akhenaten, Tutankhamun's father, he was the one who tried to totally change Egyptian religion.
Right, Akhenaten. So he was Tut's father, and he really shook things up religiously, huh?
Big time. And Tut, he came to the throne really young.
Like, how young are we talking?
9 years old. Around there.
Oh my gosh. No pressure or anything.
Right. And it was during this time of, well, turmoil, really, because of all the religious upheaval.
Makes sense. So basically, his dad turned everything upside down, and Tut was left to kind of put it all back together.
Pretty much. And to make things even more complicated, he reversed a lot of his father's reforms, brought back the old gods.
Oh, okay. So not everyone was happy about that, I'm guessing.
You got it. It created tension, for sure, especially among those who supported Akhenaten's way of doing things.
And then what? He just, like, drops dead a few years later?
Well, he does die quite young.
Yeah, no kidding. Sounds like a recipe for, maybe some foul play was involved.
Well, historians still debate exactly how Tutankhamun died.
Really?
It's a big mystery. Accident, illness, or, something more deliberate. We just don't know for sure.
Okay, so spill it. What are the theories?
Well, there's evidence he fractured his leg at some point. And they found signs of an infection on the mummy.
Okay.
So that could point to an accident of some kind. Maybe a chariot crash.
Right, makes sense with all the chariots they found in there. The guy liked to ride.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But there are some things that are a bit odd. The way his mummy was positioned in the tomb, some of the artifacts, they aren't typical for a normal burial.
Oh, interesting. So maybe not an accident then.
It's possible.
What about illness? Could it have been that simple?
There's a good chance. We know Tutankhamun's family, they had a history of health issues.
Right, all that keeping it in the family, so to speak. Genetically speaking, probably not the best idea.
It weakens the bloodline, makes you more vulnerable.
So maybe he was just a sickly kid.
It's possible. But some experts believe he might have been murdered.
Okay, that's what I'm talking about. Who are the prime suspects in the case of the boy king's death?
Well, there's Ai. He was Tutankhamun's top advisor.
Okay.
And he took over after Tutankhamun's death. And he also married Tutankhamun's wife.
Wow. Talk about ambitious.
Right.
Climbing the ladder of power one pharaoh at a time.
There's also Horemheb to consider. He was a military leader who came after Ai. He really wanted to strengthen his own power and was known to, well, erase the people who came before him, especially anyone connected to Akhenaten.
So it's like ancient Egyptian Game of Thrones up in here. Intrigue everywhere you look.
Exactly.
So what do you think really happened?
Honestly, we may never know for sure. There's just not enough evidence to say one way or the other.
Oh, man. That's both fascinating and frustrating. Well, I guess that's history for you. Speaking of mysteries, can we talk about the whole curse of the pharaohs thing?
Ah,
Was it real? Or just a bunch of hype?
well, certain events definitely made people wonder. Like right after they opened the tomb, Lord Carnarvon, Carter's patron,
Yeah.
he died very suddenly.
It was from the mosquito bite, though, right?
You're right, it was. But at the time, the newspapers, well, they had a field day with it.
Oh, I bet. Ancient curses, angry mummies, it practically writes itself.
Exactly. People love a good story, especially if it has a little bit of spooky mystery to it.
So, was anyone else affected?
There were a few other deaths, people who'd been in the tomb.
See.
But most of them had pretty normal explanations, like heart attacks
Sure.
or just old age. Even a suspected murder, which, not exactly supernatural.
So no poison darts or, ancient flags unleashed from the sarcophagus?
Afraid not. A lot of the people involved with the discovery, they actually lived long, healthy lives. Howard Carter, he lived for another 16 years after opening the tomb.
Okay, so maybe the curse wasn't real, but you have to admit, it's a good story. And it does make you think twice about, messing with ancient burial grounds.
I agree. There's something about these stories that taps into our fear of the unknown. Like, there are some things we just aren't meant to know.
Definitely. Okay, so no curse, but King Tut's tomb, I mean, it really was a huge deal, right?
Oh, yeah. One of the most important archaeological discoveries ever.
Because of the gold?
That's part of it, but it was more than that. It really changed how we understood ancient Egypt. Their burial rituals, their religious beliefs, how they lived their daily lives.
It's like a snapshot of a world that just doesn't exist anymore.
Exactly. And I think that's why people are still so fascinated by King Tut. His story, his tomb, it gives us a glimpse into another time.
Very cool. And on that note, I want to thank you so much for joining us for this deep dive. We'll see you next time when we, well, who knows what we'll